I guess one of the things that's disturbing about being alive these days is everything's a scam. And there's always been an American spirit of scammery. Look at P.T. Barnum or people like that. But anytime you're looking for wisdom on entrepreneurship or investing or anything else, these are things that I'm getting into as I progress and eventually march toward getting an MBA. But you're going to run into scammerific nonsense. Looking for a job these days, filled with scams, filled with nonsense, filled with some obvious scams. I mean, it's to the point to where if I see a job posting that has a misspelling in it or a capitalization that's off, I don't even respond to it. My bar's pretty low for employment. I'm a contractor right now, so I'm just looking for something that has insurance. And I'm hoping by, I want to say February or March, I'll make the decision whether or not to go self-employed. I have a Security Plus certification and an IT background, so I do have some skills, but I like to avoid the glorified grease monkey nonsense of IT. If you're in IT, you might know what I'm talking about. Like, we all get into IT thinking that, oh yeah, we're going to be behind a computer doing like Active Directory installs. No, a lot of what you're going to be doing is literally like putting together motherboard, depending on where you work, but you're going to be putting together motherboards and on your feet. And, it's very ironic that I would weight train consistently and never get a bicep injury, but then lift an unwieldy 70-pound server the wrong way over and over and over and over again and get an injury to one of my biceps. Which within a couple years, I might, I was at the point where I was going to get an MRI on it, and I just figured out through trial and error that if I avoid doing any exercise where I bend my elbows, it's fine. So as another segue, exercise is a big scam topic, obviously, with the entire fitness industry being on PEDs, which performance enhancing drugs, like if I was a bodybuilder or a strength guy, I absolutely would be on if it meant the difference between me winning and losing and my income. It makes total sense. And there's a kind of thirsty attention you'll get if you look a certain way on the internet. And if you look, you'll be very marketable. So it does make sense. But at some point, if I can't slim down, exercising like a maniac, and getting new equipment, then I absolutely will try something like Ozempic. It's a matter of making that decision, because it's getting increasingly more difficult for me to move around, and I definitely am just kind of moving into the acceptance phase, and maybe I'll go into do some martial arts, something like that, here and there, like more than I have in the past, more seriously. Because the one thing they don't talk about is you can get arthritis in your elbows from lifting weights. You can get arthritis in your wrists. You can mess things up. It's funny, one of the big talking points that I've heard from Republicans, these videos, by the way, are just me driving and ranting. One of the big things I've heard from Republicans is the crime rate. And if you're unable to think critically, you look at the crime rate in a place like, New York, like, man, that's high, or whatever city. But then you look at the per capita crime rate, and actually, little cities and red states, little towns, have as many drug users per capita, more crime in some places. So it's not even a valid idea. And sure, there's a lot of failed policies that you could apply to criminal justice that people have tried, like legalization, where it causes more problems than it solves, especially if you don't have an infrastructure in place to deal with addiction. but none of the policies are on the table to solve any of these issues. I mean, even when Trump was in office and he had the ability to actually pass legislation dealing with immigration, he didn't do it. He did it by executive order. It was easier. And when there was bipartisan support for a bill, like, think about the arguments here. So there's a border influx that's like millions a year, depending on however you want to calculate it, that was recent, right? And the Republicans turned down the bill supposedly because, oh, well, that quota that you're going to have for closing the border means that you'll let in 1 million people a year. First of all, there's no quota anywhere in the law that says we're going to close the border if we have any number of immigrants. So that was good. If you're in favor of closing the border, which has rarely happened in history. Second of all, it's still lower than the amount of people that are actually coming in, without that. So it doesn't make any sense. It was torpedoed so they could play politics with it is the only possible explanation. And what's funny is, regardless of how, supposedly Kamala looks stupid in her interview, I haven't watched it, but Trump won't do the same. Trump won't go in a hostile environment, and he'll make a non-hostile environment hostile for no reason. Like, he'll go on Bloomberg. Bloomberg and Forbes always post stuff that's roughly in the middle, maybe slightly friendly to Trump because they're right economic bent. But he'll go on there and start calling them fake news, and it's just, it's inflammatory jackass behavior. Talking about locking people up, and I just don't know where this progressive idea that you're gonna sit out the election comes from. I mean, yeah, okay, Democrats didn't codify Roe versus Wade, but if Trump gets in, he's gonna have access to fill all those federal judicial appointments. He's gonna have access to make Supreme Court justices again, to make the Roe v. Wade situation worse. 100%. Biden did what the progressive wanted, and he stopped a lot of Trump's immigration policies and Obama's immigration policies. It's been a political disaster for him in middle America. And it's been bad for the country. Let's look at it objectively. So Biden is sending letters to Israel protesting what they're doing in Gaza. Nobody's talking about that. It's just, I'm not going to vote for Kamala because Gaza, because I support genocide. Well, that's a situation that's going to continue happening. Let's say the United States, there's no possibility that the United States is going to cut off military assistance to Israel, like none. I mean, it's baked into our politics now. It didn't used to be. The United States didn't support Israel roughly until Yom Kippur, because they were such on the back foot. They were caught on the back foot by the Arabs to such an extent. We didn't support them before then. And what has Israel really done for the U.S.? I mean, not a lot. So that is kind of a one-sided alliance. But Republicans are up in arms that, she would meet with Netanyahu. She can't win either way on the issue. But it is funny to me that progressives are going to try to throw the U.S. election and possibly get Trump in. I mean, I don't think it matters. I don't think this is actually, they don't have enough electoral cachet or strength. But Trump is objectively worse on that particular issue. If he could personally go in there and just machine gun Palestinian children, he would. He doesn't like Arabs. And then you want to talk about the population of Gaza that's ruled by Hamas. So we're supposed to bend over backwards and worry about that. I mean, Hamas is a Salafi terrorist group that has ties to ISIS that openly celebrated 9/11. So what is, and there's obviously deep parts of Palestinian society that would agree with that because they've been radicalized for a long time for various reasons. So I don't agree with putting my country's suffering, like some self-sacrifice, like some flagellation, to prevent genocide against the Palestinians. They started the war. Israel was not bombing them to death